What's up, guys, gals, and non-binary pals? My name is Naomi. Welcome to House of Miscellania. Today, I am coming at you with a WIP and Chat. It's the weekly WIP and Chat time. WIP stands for Work in Progress, and if you're new to a WIP and Chat and you don't know what in the heck that is, it is where I'm going to sit and talk with you for, I don't know, like an hour, and I'm going to talk to you about life. I'm going to talk to you about stuff to do with diamond painting or just stuff to do with stuff, whatever. At the very end, I always draw a tarot card as kind of a thought for the week. And I'm going to get into those later on. For right now, I'm going to set these aside. They've already been shuffled. They're ready to go. Tools that are already in front of me because I started in on the square I was working on. My pen here is from Diamond Pen Pal over on Etsy. This is the Satura pen, and the reason I chose it is because this piece is kind of like a night sky theme. It's like a, well, I'll show you. It's a camping scene on the beach at night, but I figured with the stars in there, and it glows in the dark. All of these like milky white parts that you see, they glow in the dark. Let me see if I can capture that for you. One second. Here we go. Now you can see it. It glows in the dark and it is fantastic. I don't know if they have any more of these left. You'd have to go look over at Diamond Pen Pal, but let me pause and turn the lights back on. There we go. So yes, this is the Satura pen, but I'm sure that if you request it over at Diamond Pen Pal, they can probably make one like it, or maybe one exactly like it. You'll have to check in with them. There's a link down in the description. In my multi-placer, I am using Putty Crocker's eggnog scented putty. They are over on Facebook. And then in my single placer here, I have Ghost from Diamond Painting Daily. This is their symbol over on Etsy. Again, links will be down in the description. And then my tray that I'm using right now, yes, it was an event tray for Mary Morales from last year and the beginning of this year, but this is from Ephemera 3D. This is their deep 6 because it is 6 inches long and it is a deep tray. I love this thing, you guys. Love it so much. And then the painting that I'm working on is actually, you're looking at it sideways, so like this side up, okay? But it is called Evening Melodies from Diamond Art Club. And as you can see, as I was telling you, it is a camping scene at night on like a lake. And then there's this beautiful night sky. This is from Diamond Art Club. It is by Abraham Hunter, and it is a 93 by 70 centimeters. It is really lovely. It's going to be a gift for my in-laws once I finally finish it. I think I'm going to give it to them maybe for Christmas. It depends. Kind of making decisions about that. But let me get some stuff out of my way here and go ahead and get started. How has your week been? My week has been fairly typical for as far as weeks go for me. I don't, I don't do much, you guys, as far as like getting out of the house, although I'll get into what I have done outside of my house here in just a moment. But how's your week been? I mean, have you been busy? Have you been diamond painting? Are you doing well? Are you keeping your metaphorical and actual crap together? That's what I'd like to know. Leave me a comment. Tell me how you're doing. Mentally, I'm doing well. I think there's been kind of some stuff that went down last week. Things sort of came to a head, and I had remarked about, just feeling secretive and maybe there being some stuff going on. And I actually went back and I really paid attention to the tarot card reading that I had given kind of the channel, and I looked at it in my own life, like what was going on in my life too. And I really started to ponder on it. There was something that was really bugging me, just eating at me. And I finally decided that I needed to have a conversation about what was going on with a few different people. One person that I had spoken to gave me some really phenomenal support. I was talking to them about, how I was feeling unsupported in some different ways, and we kind of talked through what would maybe change my feelings on that. And they know who they are. I'm incredibly grateful. It really put some perspective on where I was at. And while I don't know that things were necessarily fully resolved, I got my feelings out in the world and expressed how I was doing, and that was really important. Whether or not I was reading too far into things or whatnot is kind of neither here nor there. I feel like in the situation, I at least let it be known that I was feeling some type of way after burying it and burying it and burying it. And I think I'm feeling a lot better in regard to just talking it through. And my daughter, I feel like sometimes she and I are very synced up as far as, when I'm feeling sort of chaotic and crazy, she's often feeling chaotic and crazy. And so she'll call me to get advice on something that might be going on in her life. And I use it kind of as an opportunity to talk to her about what's going on with me. And I was able to, one, give her some advice on what she was going through, and she was also able to kind of give me some feedback on some things that I was going through. And it's nice to be able to have a relationship like that with my child, right? Because ultimately I'm still mom, she's still my kid, but she's a grown woman now. She'll be 25 or 20, excuse me, let me not age her out here. She'll be 24 in September. And so it never ceases to amaze me. Like, I remember when she was just learning how to drive, and how very, like, kind of earth-shaking that was for me at the time, to be able to ride in a car with someone that I gave birth to and was a zygote in my body, and then have that person drive you around in a car was pretty, it was pretty messed up, you know what I mean? Like, it shook me. And so being able to have a conversation with her like that, if you're a parent and you have little children, just imagine yourself, one, riding in a car with one of your children who may be, whatever age now, but imagine them as an adult driving you around. And if you can even picture it, it's hard to really put yourself there. But, like, if you can imagine that, and then having this conversation with them when they're an adult person about kind of your fears or your forays, or whatever, just whatever, and it really, like, throws everything into this sort of spinning, I don't know, like, eddy of feelings, right? Because on the one hand, it's like, I'm so proud of her. She's an adult, and she's got her stuff together, and she's so far forward from where I was at her age. And then on the other hand, it's like, but you were a non-person, you you were just uh you were just a cell, you know. Pretty crazy. Um my in-laws, well, my mother-in-law specifically, she did kind of a mean thing the other day. Had invited us, now this isn't the mean part, she'd invited us to like it's called Golden Corral. It's like it's a buffet type place, and we used to all the time. We would go to Old Country Buffet, which in my opinion is superior to Golden Corral, but that's been gone since COVID. And so we went to Golden Corral and we had like brunch or whatever. She invited us out with my father-in-law and her, and we went and had our brunch. It was us and then um, the two adult kids that live with us, my son and my son's significant other. And I guess my husband knew about the fact that they were going to be getting a Switch for my son because he lost his. We have no freaking clue where it went. We have scoured the entire house. We've even looked over at my in law's house and can't find it there. And so they had bought one to replace it. Well, when my mother in law gave it to my son, she says, you know, and also all of us, and indicated, you know, my father in law, herself, my husband, and me, we all want you to go back to school or get a job. Now, okay, that is true. I do want my kid to get a job or go to school, but I did feel like it was like ambushing a little bit, and I did later apologize because it felt like if it were me put on the spot like that, and kind of making it seem like this was all planned or rehearsed or whatever, I would have felt some type of way about it. And so I did mention to him, like, hey, yes, it is true. Yes, I do want you to get a job, or I do want you to go to school. I want you to, you know, be able to make the most out of your life. But that wasn't planned. I didn't know that was going to happen. And so I want you to know that I care very much about your feelings, and I'm sorry if it felt like an ambush because I didn't know that was going to happen. So, you know, and on one hand, I remember I've been in the kind of crosshairs for my in-laws before on a couple of different occasions, and I know how it feels, and it doesn't feel awesome. They're very lovely. Like, as far as in-laws go, I know that I won the in-law lottery. Like, they're great people. They worry too much, I think, and they are really concerned about being in kind of our business in a sort of way. And so, you know, it was, I didn't want to immediately like call my mother-in-law and be like, yo, that was really uncool. It was uncalled for. I'm sure at one point or another I will have a conversation with her and just say, like, hey, you know, I think I agree with what you were getting at. Like, I understood what the point of everything was, but I felt like it was a little bit of an ambush and might have really hurt Orion's feelings. And I don't want to do that. Like, that wasn't what I thought we were going for. I thought we were just going for brunch. And so, you know, I had talked to Dustin afterward, and he knew about the Switch. Like, he knew that was going to happen, but I don't think he was aware that that was coming up either. And so, you know, I've been with him for 20 years. I've known his parents for 20 years. And so it's like, I I've grown accustomed to the things that they do like that, but that doesn't mean that it was any less um, hurtful to my son for that to happen. Um, I think also the thing that makes it a little bit more um, kind of tough is that um, my my in-laws, they don't mean to. I know it's never really on purpose, but they're still struggling with at times like misgendering my son because he's trans, and they don't see him as much as we do. So I'm accustomed now to using the proper pronouns, but my in-laws maybe aren't always so much. And so there were a couple of instances where I had to make, some very gentle corrections, and it's never said in a he, or it's never said or done in a way that's like pointing a finger or expecting that it's malicious or whatever when they do it. But there were a couple of corrections made, and I think that I can always tell when it's starting to bubble, or it like the tension is starting to increase a little bit. There's a hair on here. Dang it. There we go. And I could feel it kind of bubbling a little bit. And so I'll eventually chat with her about it, just, you know, because it is important to me that my my son feels respected, because I don't I don't want him to feel like, we all were talking behind our hands or whatever and making this ambush plan to tell him to go to school or get a job, because it wasn't like that. But like I said, I feel like in a certain sense a lot of people can relate to that. If you're a parent and you have adult kids that are still at home, like, yes, you want them to strive for the best for themselves. You don't want them to feel like they're just gonna live with you forever. And I mean, unless that's what you want, but that you want them to want more for themselves. And as a parent, you want to encourage that, but you also have to respect the way that you would feel if your parents did that to you, and if it felt like everybody was coming at you at the same time, and that somehow this was planned or whatever. And so I can see it from both sides. I understand why she did it, because they've offered to help with college and stuff like that with my son since he was born. And so I think, in a way, they're just showing that that support would still be there. And it's hard. It's really hard. And so, I mean, you tell me in the comments, is this something that you've dealt with your kids, like it, or is this something that it was a pressure that was put on you by your parents, that they wanted you to go to school or get a job or whatever? I mean, we've already now come to the end of a gap year, right? And so that's now done and over with. We've had our gap year, and so I definitely want to encourage more movement, but I definitely don't want him to feel like he's being picked on or ambushed or whatever. Yeah. Anyways, but that was, Sunday, I think that happened. Anyway, so we're moving into what's soon to be spring, right? And I've got some new companies that I'm going to be working with, which I'm excited about. I've also got probably coming up at the end of May, maybe beginning of June, some more sneak peeks coming from Captured by Radiance, which I'm super stoked about. But there's a couple of other new companies that you're going to see on my channel. One in particular is Ever After Diamond Painting. I will have a sneak peek from them very soon. And then I will also have something from a new to me. Ever After Diamond Painting is brand new. Like, their website's not even open yet. And then there's one that's new to me. They've been around for a little while. They're a Canadian company, and it is Realizations Eric at Karen. And I am probably slaughtering the French on that. But I should ask them how that's pronounced, just so that I pronounce it correctly, because it's written in French, right? Well, they are going to be sending something along. And then also new to me is Enablers Outpost. They're going to be sending me something as well. So I'm super stoked to start working with some of these new businesses, kind of, fill a gap in for businesses that I'm no longer working with. I'm super excited for that. And there are some really terrific artists that are at these shops and coming to these shops too. So, woo, that is something exciting. I can't wait. I have always had a connection with art. And I got to thinking to myself about, I gotta adjust, sorry, I'm like shaking the whole world here. I got to thinking about like the kind of psychology around art collection and why we pick the pieces that we do when it comes to diamond painting, when we have an option. Like, if we're not, I understand that there are limitations to what people can afford. If I could buy everything that I absolutely loved out there, oh my God, I get a drink. I have so many pieces from places like Jada Gem Shop and Diamond Art Club and Captured by Radiance and just everywhere. I have all of these pieces that I absolutely adore, and I have to make decisions. I am limited in income, so it's a matter of making choices because of that. But I've also kind of learned to be a little bit more discerning in what I buy because of those limitations with regard to money. And so I got to thinking about like the psychology around collecting art and the pieces that we pick. And it's not just about owning beautiful pieces, because I have a lot of beautiful pieces. I'm excited, but I'm always looking at more. It's also tapping into like a really deep psychological and emotional and even a social need, right? And I think that some of the reasons behind what we collect and why we collect it stem from a lot of things. Like, I think about like the personal meaning behind some of these pieces. Like, okay, I'm working on a landscape. You could knock me over with a feather by telling me this time last year that I would be in love with working on a landscape again. When I first started, there there wasn't a lot available as far as, like, I wasn't doing a lot of online shopping. If I was getting anything online, it was probably my in-laws who were buying it for me because they did a lot of online shopping. I didn't have, I mean, okay, this is going to sound messed up, but back in 2019, I didn't have a debit card. I had a bank account wherein I would cash my check and carry cash, but I didn't have a debit account at the time. I basically had cash. I would cash my check, I would keep cash in my wallet, even if my check was, $1,500. It was in the bank or it was in my pocket. And so, you know, I picked up what was available at the Hobby Lobby or Joann's or Michael's or uh, whatever. I worked with what I had around me, and there were a lot of available things from, like, it was all either some sort of stock images or it was old masters. Like Van Gogh is a big one, and I love Van Gogh anyways, so that worked out. But a lot of it was old masters like Monet or Van Gogh, or just, like I said, like stock images. And so I had a lot of landscapes because that was what I could find. So, like, I've completed Diamond Dots version of Starry Night. I've finished Diamond Dots version of Cafe at Night. I've finished some Monet pieces. Like, one is it's a bridge, I believe, piece. I have a similar piece to it that I have not yet worked on. And, I basically, after figuring out that I could get my hands on portraits, I put away the landscapes and I just didn't really touch them again because I was tired of doing them. Well, now here I am. I'm working on this piece, and I'll show you the picture again because the personal meaning to it, it evokes emotions and memories and experiences. And this, to me, reminds me of when Dustin and I went to Door County, and the place that we stayed on Lake Michigan. If there were a lighthouse over here, this would be exactly like it. Or it reminds me of Newport State Park, which is also in Door County, and it's one of the international dark sky parks. So you could see the Milky Way at night. Absolutely gorgeous. It has personal meaning. And now here I just ended up purchasing from Diamond Art Club recently a landscape by Sandra Bergeron, and it's called Still Waters, I believe. It is a really beautiful image, and it reminds me of places here in Wisconsin. And in fact, when I was looking at it, because it just recently restocked, I was looking at it with Dustin, and we actually planned a trip after looking at this piece to go to the places that it reminded us of. And so part of collecting art is about personal experience and things that this personal connection that you have, right, to pieces. And then there's like this sentimental value because it can remind you of a specific time, place, or person. Similar situation, right, where okay, a perfect example. And you know what? Now I'm saying this out loud because I'm going to remember to do it, even though I rarely edit my WIP and chats very heavily. But um, there's another piece that comes to mind as far as this is concerned, and with regard to sentimental value, and that is Soul of the Storm by Camilla de Errico. And when I've talked about this piece before on lives, and I've talked about it in voice chats, and this piece in particular just really it speaks to me. It speaks to me of surviving the storm, and how the, it's a gray piece, but the rain is causing this rainbow around her, and it's raining down on her these beautiful colors, and it's changing the way that she currently exists. And to me, like, I could really go on and on about how the piece speaks to me, but after having seen it, the picture that I put up for yourself, maybe it evokes something for you too. I feel like we're all laid bare for the storm, just like this girl appears to be naked, even though she's covered up by her hair. And it's a piece that just it it really speaks to me on a deep, deep level. And then there's also like mood enhancing. Studies show that looking at art can improve your mood and reduce your stress. And so, especially when it comes to pieces like Try to Follow or Cup of Sunshine, those pieces can really, like, working on those colors at a specific time of year, they can really enhance your mood. They can make you feel better. They can uh, they can alter the way that you currently feel because you are working with specific colors at the time. I wouldn't want to work on a really, dark, moody piece. Like this one is dark, but it's not moody. It's it's not evoking darkness, except to say that it's dark at night. It's this beautiful sky, and I love looking at the sky. One thing that I really miss about winter is being able to be out and look at the stars. And so, this reminds me of summer. It reminds me of warmth, and it's different in that dark way. There's So that's like the emotional connection with art pieces, but then there's also like this search for, I don't know, like identity, or this search for personal expression that comes from artwork and the art that we choose to work on. Like, I feel like a lot of the pieces that I work on really, because I work on so many portraits, in a lot of ways they can reflect my own personality. Like, no, obviously I'm not a girl with a rainbow colored tailed fox on my head, but I feel like with Foxy Lady that I finished, oh, you know what? I'm thinking about it, and I have pictures of Try to Follow and Cup of Sunshine. Those mood enhancers, they're in my book. I'm like, wait a minute. I mean, even like Grand Canal and Basilica Venice, when I was working on it, the colors just really, they spike your mood in a good way. But here's Try to Follow. Like when I worked on this one, oh, it was a mood booster. Cup of Sunshine was something that I finished fairly recently for Black History Month, and it honestly, the colors in it just boosted my mood. I don't have Soul of the Storm in here, but Foxy Lady, this one here, this is Foxy Lady. No, okay. It's not a reflection directly of my personality per se, but I do find that it's quirky and it's unique. It's funny, kind of. It's I love rainbows. We often decide on art that represents our values or our tastes or our identity. And, in a lot of ways, like, sure, that could have been the perfect Pride kit, could have been something to work on in June for Pride Month, because I am very much about LGBTQIA plus values and freedoms and rights. And so, I feel like I would get paintings that are representative of those values. And I think others do the same, as simple as maybe you're getting a piece that looks like a farmscape or something because you like the traditional, you like the simple, you like the uh, the kind of perception of a traditional type home or just a rural sense of small community or whatever. I think that we do often pick pieces that, without maybe all the way meaning to, have much deeper meaning than just a pretty picture to look at. Um, I think there's also like a desire for uniqueness. Um, and you see this in the community too. It seems like pieces that are archived, all of a sudden they jump in value to us. Where, okay, so let's say this piece that I'm working on right now, Evening Melodies, it sells for, it's like $74.99 or whatever. It's a big painting, okay? But if it archived and I was selling it in D-Stash, I might ask for $90 because it's no longer available, because somehow it is gained in value, because it is gained in rarity. It has this sense of limited or what have you. And so there are a lot of ways in which certain people can kind of lord it over you, like they have things that you can't get, or you like to watch certain channels because they're showing paintings that you can no longer get, or that you don't often see, or that you yourself might never get the opportunity to work on. We watch channels with big stashes because maybe those are things that you're never going to get your hands on, but you want to look because you want to see. You want to see the things that are out there. And I feel like looking at someone's stash videos, like I'm going to do an updated stash video, is almost like looking in their personal museum. It's looking at their personal style. How well does it match with your own? What do you like about that art? What do you dislike about that art? Like, does it speak to you? And so, because, like I said, I'm really broke sauce, I really have to consider a lot of things when I'm making purchases. And I honestly think about all of these different aspects of the psychology about the art that I'm picking. I think there's also obviously just the aesthetic pleasure. Like you really like what you get, you buy it because it pleases you aesthetically. It fits maybe with the decor of your home. It fits with the colors that you really like. Maybe you bought it simply because you love the colors that it has in it. I've done this before. Really perfect example of a piece that aesthetically is like perfect for me would be, let's see, can I find it? It would be in the beginning here. Let's see. Where are you hiding? There you are. Ajasai by Margaret Morales is a perfect example of a piece like blues, greens, purples. This is my color palette. One of my favorite pieces, hands down, because aesthetically it is exactly what I love. Like to a T, down to the watercolor art style is an aesthetic that really brings me a lot of joy. And sometimes it's just the beauty and craftsmanship behind the art. And I think there's also, like, in that whole idea about rarity, there's that thrill of the hunt that you get. Like, can I tell you the dopamine rush that I got from finally finding a copy of Mystery 47, one of my very last unicorns that I've been looking for. I've got one left. It's a Margaret Morales, and it's Sarah from The Labyrinth. And I'll probably never find it, but if I find it, like, the dopamine rush on that would be insanity. And I think that there's that same dopamine rush from acquiring a piece that, you know, you fell in love with, that's dropping for the weekend or whatever, and you get your hands on it before it sells out. Like, there is definitely a rush, and I think that there's also that kind of little bitty FOMO, maybe a lot bit of FOMO, where you purchase something simply because you're like, oh my God, I do like this piece and it could go away. And so if I don't buy it now, I might miss it. There's a lot of that too, because of that dopamine rush. You're like, it's an addiction, and you want that hit, you know? There's also like a sense of achievement when you find a rare or a meaningful piece, because you get that feeling of accomplishment. It goes into your stash, or you want to work on it right away. In fact, a friend recently posted a finish of Mystery 47, and she had kept it a secret from everybody that she even had it, and was working on it and completed it until she posted a finish tonight. And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know you did it. I didn't know you had it. Like, I can't even keep a fart a secret. So the fact that you kept the secret since last September when she started working on it, I was like, I'm impressed. Like, I could never do it. Couldn't even think about doing it. And then there's like, obviously, the scarcity and exclusivity sort of thing. I don't know what Beans is scratching on upstairs. Let's see if he stops. Yeah. Like, especially if something's limited edition or one of a kind, those mysteries, especially because there's only so many that are made. And getting your hands on one by an artist that you really, really love, like the Morales mystery, for instance, I'll never part with it. Somebody was looking for one for a decent price, and I was like, $600. That's what I would tell her. Is that a reasonable price to you? Because if it's not, well, that's what I would need to have to part with it. I'm pretty sure she'd say no. I didn't offer it, but that's like what I was thinking, is like, I would need a lot of money to part with it, not just because of the scarcity of it, but because the artist is one that I absolutely love, you know? And then I think the other reason that we kind of like the psychology behind picking the art that we pick also has to do a little bit with like status symbol. I mean, throughout history, owning art has been a sign of wealth and sophistication. And so I think in some ways, and I am probably, I'll say I'm guilty of this too, that there is a sense of kind of looking down on people who work on air quote cheap, you know, AI images, or cheap stolen. I'm sorry, I don't like people who steal artists' work without the artists being properly compensated. But like those cheaper paintings, and some of them look really amazing, and I've been guilty of it myself. So I'm really trying to make sure that I temper that behavior, because one, it's not cute to be judgmental of another person, because to them that could be really beautiful. And if you're poo-pooing and crapping all over what they love, you're kind of crapping all over their taste. You're crapping all over what they feel probably really proud of. I mean, I was very proud of my crappy, you know, pieces that I was finishing when I first started. And so I'm really trying to be mindful of not doing that, making it a status thing, because it is, but it isn't, you know. I think there's also the like belonging to a community, because we tend to connect with like-minded individuals through like D-stash groups or paint-alongs or events, people who are working on similar pieces to us, and social media, of course. And so, there's that sense of community, which I absolutely love. And then it's also about supporting artists, because I feel a sense of duty to preserve and promote artists' work. I think it's important that we appreciate where it comes from, and that we honor the artist, not just with recreating the piece in diamond painting form, but also to make sure that the artist gets the proper recognition monetarily, and to make sure that the artist isn't being ripped off. I feel very strongly about that. And while I like, if all you can afford is the air quote knockoff or the AliExpress or Shein or Temu or whatever, it is what it is. I just don't want to see anybody's work stolen. That's really all it is. Work on what you can, I think it's also a part of it too, is that, and I've spoken to my husband about it. It's like, these pieces, even though we don't really think about it necessarily at the time, a lot of these pieces, when they do have popularity in the community for diamond painting, they do actually have value. Not just in what you can get for them in D-stash, because that is a factor. And then, like, if something is discontinued or archived, like I said, you can get more money for it in D-stash. There's also the fact that, you can resell it over time just simply because it's archived. It doesn't even necessarily have to be from a super popular artist. It's just the fact that you can no longer get it essentially gives it that extra seeming value in our community. I think because we view it as an appreciating asset. There's also, there's art collectors who kind of view it as a different kind of financial investment. I know in a lot of ways I do. I think very highly of my stash, my collection. I think that there's lots of pieces in there that people would want. And if I really needed to, let's say, I was hurting financially, I know that there are a lot of the paintings that I have I could sell and make my money back. Maybe not all the way, but a good amount. And it also, there's a legacy building aspect to it, where I know that whatever I don't work on, that at least, my daughter would appreciate and maybe even work on. Maybe not. I mean, maybe she'd just sell it, but there is that too. And then, I feel like diamond painting is also, like, in this chaotic world, collecting diamond paintings makes me sort of feel like I'm creating this personal space for beauty. And I'd say order, but I don't think that that's true for me necessarily. But it is there is a sense of control when it comes to the psychology around what I pick. I have control over it, and I can apply it to my own space, There's also, because there's like this escape and fantasy aspect, there's also, like, when I look at certain pieces, it really just transports me. This is why I love Color Out of Place as much as I do try to follow is a color out of place piece. It's surrealist art, and it takes me to a completely, other realm. It transports me, and I love that. I love that about their artwork. It's special. It's very special to me. And then, because art collecting is, in its way, can be like a meditative process, there's therapeutic effects too. And then we all want to like have kind of some nostalgia when it comes to our art. Like, we might be drawn to art that reminds us of our childhood or some significant life moment. We do that too. I know I'm big for this as well. Like, I'm so drawn to fantasy pieces because fantasy is a huge part of my childhood. I was very imaginative, and I had a very rich fantasy sort of life and upbringing. I was never discouraged from kind of following that feeling of fantasy when I was a kid. And then, I think there's also pieces too, in like a nostalgic way, that are from maybe a particular moment or an era that we're connected to, like the Paint Gems 80s or Rainbow Edition. Like they're very nostalgic too. So yeah. Anyway, I got to thinking about all of this stuff around the psychology of like the art that we choose and whatever, and I went down a rabbit hole, y'all. I did. I hope all of that was at all interesting or thought-provoking to you, because it definitely was thought-provoking to me, and I thought, I'm just gonna start talking about it. I'm gonna talk about it out loud and see where it all goes. So there you have it. That's sort of what my WIP and chats end up being, is just, let's go down this rabbit hole together and see where we end up. So I hope that was at all interesting to you. I thought it was. I enjoyed myself. But let's go ahead and get that tarot card up here for our thought for the week. A reminder to you guys, I do have a community tab that you can check out, and I am currently trying to find out from you guys if you would at all be interested in signing up for a monthly level on the channel wherein you could get a tarot reading yourself. Go and check out my community tab and vote. Even if your answer is no, that's totally fine. I'm more interested in counting the yeses, because those are the people that I would be catering to, not really the no's. But if I can come up with a good, 5 to 10 people that are interested in this, then I'm absolutely going to go for it, because I think that I feel like it would provide some value. And anyway, all right, let me cover this up so I don't get sticky stuff on anything. Now, I already shuffled. This is the Fairies Oracle, which would be the deck that I would be using when I do the tarot readings. Now, I've already shuffled the deck, and this card on the top popped out, and it is the Piper. This one jumped out of the deck at me. So here's our thought for the week. Let's see what the Piper has to say. Oh, look at, he's got like little baby hairs on his chest. Isn't that adorable? I want to put that where you can see it. Is it all shiny on? There we go. Okay, the Piper, 24. Let's find out what he has to say. Thought for the week. The Piper. Keywords are music, order, harmony, seduction, and empathy. To get what you want, the Piper recommends that you try polite requests and gentle, patient persuasion, and then wait, quietly welcoming for it to come to you. Seek harmony and tranquility in yourself and in the world around you. Use tenderness and gentleness. This card speaks of a time of harmony, creativity, and increasing order. It tells of communication without words, the music of empathy, and the awareness of the feelings and concerns of others. This is a time to pay attention to the subtlety of others' expressions of feelings and ideas. Look past the surface and listen as you would to a beguiling melody on the very edge of hearing. He also plays melodies in our dreams, which may be filled with meaning and importance, and then he leaves it up to us to understand what they mean. This also may mean a good time to be aware that others may be listening to us with sensitivity and clarity, so much so that they may hear what we are truly saying more clearly than we do ourselves. Ooh. This card may also signify musical talent or ability, or it may be suggesting that the use of music in some way is in some way important at the present time. So connecting with music. Okay. So having a time of harmony and creativity and increasing order is good. It talks about paying attention to the subtlety of others' expressions of feelings and ideas. And I think sometimes I get so excited about my own that I do forget sometimes to listen to others. And it's important to get that reminder, to listen to the music of others instead of just my own. Try polite requests and gentle, patient persuasion. I am I'm crap with patience and gentle persuasion. I'm the kind of person who it's like I'll beat somebody over the head to let them know what I want. I don't know if you're the same, but the Piper, that's our thought for the week. I thank you immensely for being here. I will try and remember to put up a picture of Soul of the Storm since I did mention it. That's the only one I didn't have a picture of to show you. But other than that, you guys, thank you so much for being here with me. It means more than you know. I am about to drown you in content because I have a lot recorded and I just got to edit it. So get ready for the deluge, y'all. It's going to be a lot of post reviews, some new unboxings, like I said, and those will be coming at you this week. So keep an eye out. April's new. And then most likely, if I do start the tarot card, level, that's going to be coming out soon too, so watch for that if that was something that you were interested in knowing more about or whatever. Go watch my last WIP and Chat, got way more information on that, and a tarot reading at the end, a sample sort of thing. So anyways, you guys, you mean the world to me. I hope that wherever you are in this great, big, beautiful world that you are having a delightful morning, evening, or afternoon, whatever time it is, wherever you are, y'all. Okay, much love to you. I will see you again soon. Bye. Kisses. Bye, guys.